What if I told you that you're paying for someone's rent, their utilities, their healthcare, and all their food for an entire year? Now, what if I told you that person lives in a concrete box, and it's costing you, the taxpayer, an average of $65,000 a year to keep them there? The government calls it corrections, but at that price, it's something else entirely: human warehousing. Today, we're going to follow the money. We'll expose the staggering bill you pay to keep just one person locked away and ask the most important question of all. Is it even worth it? The United States spends over $80 billion a year on public prisons and jails. When you hear a number that big, it's easy for it to just become background noise. So let's break it down. The median cost to lock up one person for 1 year is about $65,000. But in some states, that figure just explodes. In California, taxpayers are shelling out around $127,800 per inmate per year. And in Massachusetts, the cost is a jaw-dropping $284,976. No, that's not a typo. For what Massachusetts spends on one inmate, you could pay the full tuition, room, and board for 4 students at a state university and still have money left over. This isn't a simple red state, blue state issue either. States in the South tend to spend less, around $23,000 to $30,000. But they often have some of the highest incarceration rates in the country. So whether you live in a state that spends a lot on a few or little on many, your tax dollars are footing a massive bill. The federal system, by comparison, costs about $41,437 per inmate, a figure that has also been climbing steadily. So where does all that money actually go? If you're picturing inmates living in luxury, you couldn't be more wrong. The cost isn't in amenities. It's in the machinery of the warehouse itself. The single biggest expense, by a long shot, is people. A whopping 60 to 70% of a prison's budget goes to salaries and benefits for correctional officers and staff. These are difficult, often dangerous jobs that need 24/7 staffing. High turnover rates in many states mean they have to offer higher wages, hazard pay, and tons of overtime, which sends costs soaring. Next up is healthcare, eating up another 10 to 20% of the budget. The Constitution requires prisons to provide medical care, and that's an incredibly expensive promise to keep. The prison population is, on average, a lot less healthy than the general public, with higher rates of chronic disease and mental health issues. As that population gets older, the costs just skyrocket. In California's 2025 to 26 budget, healthcare costs, including medical, mental health, and dental care, hit nearly $42,000 per inmate. That number alone is more than the average starting salary for a public school teacher in many parts of the country. The final chunk, about 15 to 20%, is for keeping the lights on. This is what most people think of: food, utilities, and maintenance. But even that's complicated. Prisons are like small cities that never sleep, with enormous electricity, water, and heating bills. And this category also includes whatever little money is left over for rehabilitation and education, the very programs meant to keep people from coming back. When you add it all up, you start to see how that bill gets so high. Most of your money isn't spent on correcting anything. It's spent on the 3 pillars of warehousing: guards, healthcare, and concrete. Now let's talk about an even more controversial part of all this: the profit motive. While most incarcerated people are in public facilities, the US also spends about $3.9 billion a year on private prisons. This introduces a business logic that seems completely at odds with the goal of corrections. Think about it this way. If you run a hospital, your business model depends on having sick people. So if you run a private prison, what do you need? You need prisoners. This creates a twisted incentive. Private prison companies have lobbied for tougher sentencing laws, policies that keep incarceration rates high because for them, an empty bed is a loss of revenue. They are not in the business of rehabilitation. They are in the business of occupancy. And it's not just the prisons themselves. A whole ecosystem of private companies is profiting from this system. We're talking about food suppliers, healthcare providers, we're talking about food suppliers, and the companies that run the commissary and prison phone services. Families, desperate just to stay in touch with their loved ones, have been forced to pay predatory rates for a simple phone call. The money families have to spend on things like calls and commissary items adds up to billions every year. And some recent studies show the total financial burden is even higher, with families spending a staggering $6.7 billion annually out of pocket. This is where the term human warehousing becomes brutally literal. Each person in a cell isn't just an inmate. They're a unit of revenue. They're a line item on a budget sheet, generating income for a web of corporations that have a direct financial interest in keeping them locked up. In many cases, your tax dollars aren't just paying for a public service. They're flowing straight into the pockets of shareholders who profit from mass confinement. For a moment, let's set aside the billions of dollars and look at what we're actually buying. The government calls it corrections. The goal is supposed to be correcting behavior, rehabilitating people, and making society safer. But for $65,000 a year, are we getting what we paid for? The evidence says a hard no. The most common measure of success is recidivism, the rate at which people get arrested again after release. And the numbers are grim. One major government study found that within 3 years of release, about 68% of people were rearrested. Within 5 years, that number jumped to 77%. More recently, California celebrated a record low, but even there, the 3-year conviction rate was still 39.1%. Think about that. We are spending more than a university education to house someone for a year, and the result is a system that fails far more often than it succeeds. This isn't a correction. It's a revolving door. This is the ultimate failure of the human warehousing model. By focusing almost entirely on security and confinement, while starving effective rehabilitation programs of funds, we create a cycle of failure. We warehouse people in brutal, isolating environments with no real chance to grow. Then we release them back into society, often with their rights stripped away and a criminal record that makes finding a job or a home nearly impossible. And then we act surprised when they end up right back in the system. Here's the kicker. People convicted of violent crimes often have some of the lowest recidivism rates, while those convicted of property crimes, theft, burglary, are the most likely to be rearrested. This suggests the system is especially bad at helping people who just need a path to economic stability. So we are spending billions on a system that doesn't work. We are paying a premium for failure. The financial cost is staggering, but the human cost, the wasted lives, the broken families, the endless cycle of crime and punishment is incalculable. So what do? The first step is to stop looking away. It's understanding the true cost. This isn't just some line item in a government budget. It's your money, and it's funding a system that is both unbelievably expensive and profoundly ineffective. Awareness is the starting point. If you want to learn more, check out the work of organizations like the Brennan Center for Justice or the Vera Institute of Justice. They do deep, data-driven work on our justice system and push for alternatives that are proven to work and save money. The data shows that investments in education and rehabilitation really do reduce recidivism. A California report found that inmates who took part in educational programs had a recidivism rate of just over 31%, and those who earned special rehabilitative achievement credit reoffended at a rate of only 25%. That's a real return on investment, not just in dollars, but in human lives and safer communities. We have to start asking the hard questions. Is a concrete box really the best tool we have for dealing with addiction, mental illness, and poverty? Isn't there a better way? I want to leave you with one final question, and I genuinely want to see your answers in the comments. What do you think is a better way to spend $65,000 a year? How could that money be used in your community to actually prevent crime instead of just punishing it? If this video made you think, please give it a like and share it. The more people who understand the true cost of human warehousing, the sooner we can demand a system that actually lives up to the name corrections. Subscribe for more deep dives into the systems that shape our world. Thanks for watching.